All right, welcome to the Local Pickup. I'm Jason Broadwater,
I'm Chris Gervais.
and this is a Gibson Les Paul, and that...
And this is also a Gibson Les Paul?
What?
Huh?
Smash this question button.
What you saying?
So that is a Les Paul Special. That is a 2015. This is a 1989 Les Paul Standard. So
Here's how it goes.
the story goes, Les Paul, the guitarist, he was a jazz guitarist back in the 30s. He was experimenting with pickups and electrical sounds. He's considered one of the inventors of the electric guitar. Other people, Rickenbacker, had an electric flat, like Hawaiian-style guitar. And the list goes on of people that were kind of in that same time. You know how the zeitgeist is, you know. So
everyone gets there at the same time,
Yeah.
but then somebody,
And so he played a big part in the whole thing, and took his idea to Gibson, who was a big guitar maker at the time. And they've been making guitars since the 1800s, you know. And you good? Okay. A Silent Micah made a silent motion.
He went like this.
And I was like, "That's enough out of you, Silent Micah. That's the most noise you've made in a year."
He sounded like a lizard waking up.
So Gibson didn't adopt it at first, and then here comes, you know, Leo Fender with the Telecaster. Everything explodes huge. Gibson
Stomping into town.
Yeah, and you know, Gibson was already doing hollow body guitars, acoustic guitars with pickups on them. But to make a solid body electric guitar, finally they decided to go all in on it. Partnered with Les Paul and made the Les Paul, which is, you know, one of the most famous guitars. And that's this shape, and the fact that it's solid mahogany with a maple top, that it's got nice appointments, and you can adjust each saddle, and it was it's an arched top, carved top, and everything. It was like a next level. It's like, okay, well, if Leo Fender's going to release a Telecaster that's just like a slab of wood, we're going to make like the nicest guitar you can possibly make, right?
Which is quite an accomplishment, because
it is,
many years later that still holds up. And in terms of design, that's not easily attained. Like the idea that decades upon decades later, you can, I mean, I did in the 90s when I first started getting interested in guitars, and, you know, I mean, nothing against Fender, they're cool and everything, but at first it was like, the first guitar that I saw when I'm looking at what they all do is I'm like at this, and I'm like, oh my God, every little thing about this is cool.
Yeah.
And way later, and with none of the sort of cultural ideas about design and stuff, just this blew me away.
Well, you know, it's funny, equally, you know, this has been one of the iconic guitars, but Fender is equally as well.
Right.
And they're such a Telecaster, such a simple design. It's more like, you know, something you would build out in the shop, and it's like the most iconic guitar. And this is definitely, you know, like artisan and
the arch. I think the arch on the body
top,
is maybe one of those remarkable things about that design, because it's like I had my first guitar was like a Les Paul. I don't remember what, some Epiphone, whatever, the standard Epiphone you get that's like $100 or something at the time. And I remember thinking Les Pauls are so cool, and being like, why doesn't mine have the little fat belly on it? What's wrong with this one? And I remember like talking to my dad, works with like wood a lot, and I remember him being like, well, you know, that's not easy to do.
Yeah, right, yeah. So it's been an iconic guitar. It's a great guitar, and they came out with it in 1954, I think. Man, you know, people will correct me, I'm sure. And this is, like I said, in '89, but it hadn't changed that much. You know, in 61, they changed it to look like the SG. It was still called a Les Paul, and then Les Paul didn't agree to that, and that split off to be the SG, and they went back to this design, which is back to Les Paul. Well, in the meantime, it wasn't long after this. It was like in '58. I mean, like 4 or 5 years later, they created the Les Paul Special. It's flat. It's got the tailpiece is
That's
both
so cool.
the bridge and the tailpiece. It's a wraparound design, versus you've got the stop tail and you've got the bridge with all the appointments and controls. It's all built into one thing there.
And this is like a flat finish.
Yeah.
On that, that's very cool looking.
Oh yeah, it's like a matte kind of and a flat top.
Which is funny. I was gonna say that, like, first getting into guitars, it was just my basic idea about things where I'm like, oh, this one has this arch to it, and I'm like, that's obviously superior.
Right.
But then after, you know, years of playing in them and stuff or whatever, I look at this one and I've seen 1,000 Les Pauls, and I look at this one, I'm like, oh, that's so cool.
That's cool.
you
Yeah,
know?
right. I know. And the big difference, of course, or one of the big differences, is the pickups. I mean,
Yeah.
these are humbuckers, which Gibson's known for, Les Paul's known for. But back in the early days of Les Paul, they had P90s on it, and they went through periods in the 50s and 60s, whether it was humbuckers or P90s, kind of settled on humbuckers, and that's been the kind of Gibson standard. But those two P90s on that are way different. They're more aggressive. They're single coil. They're noisier, and just like they push hard. You know, these are smoother. They're hum canceling, humbucking as they call it.
They buck that hum.
They buck that hum, and it's just different, man. It's so let's just to hear a little bit. Let's see what we got. That's on my bridge. That's on the neck. Then let's hear that.
So this one on the neck.
Oh, you turned it off.
And the bridge. This one has more clarity, I think.
This one's darker, and
Yeah.
that one has more clarity because it's got mids in it. It's like high
Yeah.
pushing mids. This one's got a darker sound to it.
Yeah, play like something high. Yeah, see, that's where this one comes out. The strength comes out. That fat sound. It's a little thinner.
Now you're up on the bridge though, right?
Right. Oh,
Go
you're
up on the neck.
Okay.
No, I was on the bridge
Okay.
too. It's creamier and darker on this Les Paul, yeah.
So in the neck down there, this one has more bite, but in the bridge down here.
But then give like a driving like distortion here.
Okay, yeah.
All right. So now we're on a more distorted setting. So let's kind of listen to the differences there. That's on the bridge.
Yeah, weird.
And then do the neck. It's just
Yeah, it holds true the whole time. This one's just warmer. This one has more bite.
yeah, that one has more bite and more mids and push, and this one is just darker and warmer.
Yeah, that's interesting. And the thing is, that adds up. I mean, that's what I would expect.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's great. And it's funny, that guitar, man, has a really wide neck.
Yeah, it does.
And it's like flat. It's kind of like a really thin D shape. It's not like Gibson makes what they call a razor neck. It's not quite razor, but it's pretty thin.
It's interesting because when you first pick it up, you notice how wide it is.
Yeah.
But then as soon as I start playing, I forgot about that until you brought it up.
Yeah.
It
But it's,
doesn't-
I mean, people have gotten into wide necks because having distance between the strings is just, it sometimes is nice.
Yeah,
Versus some of the guitars we play, they're so close together.
Yeah, and it's
you
like it's
know?
counterintuitive because it's always like, well, the smaller everything is, the easier it is to play. But that's not totally true.
Right, for sure. This is more the classic Gibson neck. I like this neck. This is like similar to what would be on a 60s acoustic or something. Just a good Les Paul neck. I don't know about the old, people talk about the 58 Les Paul neck. I don't know what that's like, but this one's pretty awesome. It's before they started getting real wide. When you get a modern day 335, it will have a wide neck like that. Thin neck, wide neck. And a lot of people really like that.
That's awesome. So this one specifically is the 100.
Yes. So it's the 100th anniversary of some date because it's like 100 years of Les Paul innovating. I don't know if it's his birthday, 100-year birthday, or when he first made something or other.
I think he had a microwave bean burrito.
Yes. He.
And that's special.
Yeah, it is special, especially back in the 20s or 30s.
Yeah, that's the big deal.
But that was a big deal. But and it's got like a plate on the back with his signature.
Yeah, it's like a hologram.
Oh, it's a hologram of his
it's
face.
a picture of the Pope. I'm just kidding. It's just
It's Les
weird.
Paul.
I know you're not gonna be able to see this with that camera, but it's this hologram image of Les Paul doing like a Pope wave.
Yeah, and then it's got his signature on here, and But it's cool, man. It's got the wraparound bridge that's true to the old Les Paul Jr. And excuse me, Les Paul Special. This is a Special. Special has 2 pickups. The Les Paul Jr. just has the bridge pickup. But it's the same thing, wraparound tailpiece, simple, flat. It was made as a junior or lesser or entry version of the Les Paul when it first came out. And then it got iconic in its own sense, like, with Bob Marley or whoever played the juniors.
Introduced to the idea of guitar design, it was like the Les Paul just had so much going on. That was really cool to me at the time. But then years later, I think this is very interesting looking.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm used to seeing that.
Yeah, it's cool. It's cool. I love both this, and some juniors or specials are single cut, but this one's double cut, which is cool. And the cherry, is big for Gibson. They always had the 335s that were cherry.
Yeah.
And just a good,
nice
it's a
cool
finish.
color.
Yeah, for sure. Those black P90s are pretty sweet.
Yeah, and they sound amazing.
Yeah, they do. Cool, man. So that is a Les Paul Standard from 1989. A Les Paul Special from 2015. There you go. All right, we'll see you next time on the Local Pickup.